Let me ask you a question. What does being a wife mean to you? Feel free to grab a pen and jot it down. If you've clicked on this video, chances are you're curious to know. Based on your answer, by whose definition is this? Is it your parents' definition of what a wife should be? Is it society's definition? Friends, social media? Or is it based on your thoughts and expectations? This exercise is important because the media and society at large have given women a lot of false narratives, especially young women. Oh, just look beautiful, wear expensive clothes, and then you can bag a very, very rich man. Then you can cry in a Bentley. But my question is, why do you have to cry at all? Being a wife is a profession, a full-time career path that is not taught in any institution, but you have to prepare for it mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I suppose that's why you sign a contract to that effect, because you have to be in agreement with the terms, condition, and job description. Lack of this understanding is why a lot of marriages fall short of expectations. Now let's discuss the principles. I didn't make the rules. If I had the answers, I would be a wife. I pulled from the guidelines of one of the most decorated figures in the Bible. A woman so inspiring, she had a whole Bible book named after her. She went from being a lowly orphan to becoming a queen. Now, what made Esther stand out from the rest? Please, these are just general principles that applies to anyone irrespective of your religion. What we're going to do in this exercise is liken the steps Esther took to our everyday lives. Okay, so the king wanted to choose a new queen, and all the maidens were summoned to the palace. Now, 400 of them were selected, and Esther was one of them. The selected maidens had to wait a whole year, beautifying themselves in preparation to meet with the king. So my first point is this. What do you do whilst you're waiting to meet the right person? You beautify yourself. And I'm not necessarily talking about on the outside, even though that's very important. You beautify your mind, your spirit, and your soul. You work on your character. Now, Esther was described to be beautiful, but most importantly, humble, kind, selfless, and wise. Those attributes require a lot of hard work and confidence in yourself, especially in a world where humility equals stupidity. Then work on your pink slip. It doesn't matter if you're a CEO of a company or the checkout girl at the supermarket. Strive to earn a living and earn it legitimately. Then you'll notice that once you put this effort into your self-growth, you're not just attracted to a man because he has a house and a pocket full of coins. You'll be attracted to a king in his own right. He may not have a throne, but he'll be emotionally, mentally, and spiritually elevated. That it won't matter if he's a CEO or a sales representative. He will never be content with being mediocre. He'll continuously strive for growth and self-improvement, that he won't even need to ask you what you bring to the table, because he's a man of value, a king. So it's easy for him to recognize a queen with or without a crown. Point 2. Esther spent an intimate night with the king. In modern terms, I'm not talking about sexual intimacy. I'm talking about real intimacy. Into me, you see. This is a time of complete honesty, so there are no future surprises. If you tell lies about whom you are, you have to tell more lies to cover it up. And when you do get caught up, it can completely ruin trust in the relationship. After Esther became queen, Haman waged war on the Jews, Esther's people, and Mordecai, her cousin, told her to do something about it. Now, the king had not sent for Esther in 30 days, which means she had fallen out of favor. Then Esther fasted and went to see the king without being summoned for, risking her life in the process. And fortunately, the king held out his golden scepter to receive her. In this context, as long as we have flesh, we're all sinners and we fall short of God's glory. And only when God extends his mercy to us can we enter his presence and live. Normally, sinners could not enter the presence of God until Jesus paved the way in the Christian religion. This is saying that as a wife, you have to be a woman of faith. It is your duty to selflessly safeguard your home and your family in prayer against the enemy. True story. About a month ago, I watched an interview of a lady that gave a testimony. She was dating a man, he was married, and then one day his wife traveled and he took her to the house. On getting to the house, she said she got out of the car and she felt so uncomfortable. It felt as though there was fire around. And the man kept saying to her, come in, and she just couldn't go into the house. And then she said to the man, it seems as though your wife prays a lot. And the man said, yes, that's all she does. She's always praying. She's so boring. She's always in church praying, blah, blah, blah. And she said she was so uncomfortable, she just could not go into the house. Then she called her friend, and her friend talked her into it. Eventually, she went into the house, and she said as soon as she walked in, she saw the family picture on the wall, and she saw the woman's picture. And as soon as she looked up and saw the woman's picture, she turned around and left. She got home, and for about a week, she could not eat, she could not sleep. She said she was so broken. And then about a week later, she got up one day and started asking God for mercy. Then she spoke to her friend and said, listen, for whatever reason, she wants to be that woman. She wants to be like that praying woman. She also wants to be a wife. She doesn't want to do this anymore. She came and she gave her testimony. Then Esther wanted to plead with the king on behalf of her people. But first, she invited the king to a feast before making her request. This is saying to you as a wife that marriage is equal give and take. She didn't just go to the king to make demands, to just take and take and take. She was also ready to give. She understands that it takes both parties to contribute in their capacity to the success, safety, and well-being of their family. And in the end, the king entrusted Haman's estate to Esther. Now, Haman was the king's right-hand man. When Haman makes a decree, it's as good as the king making that decree. And that was what he entrusted to Esther, because over time, she had proved to him that she's a reliable life partner. Where the husband says, don't worry, once you've seen my wife, is as good as you've seen me. So, what does being a wife mean to you? It's not child's play, but this is what you need to know. Namaste.